What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Going Rogue podcast. I am very pleased to announce that we are now sponsored by Kilted Patriot. So, if you are enjoying the cleaner audio, the better video, if you're watching us somewhere, that is who you have to thank. And the more YouTube content, full games that we're going to record, other little special projects I'm working on are all going to be thanks to them throughout the entire year of 2026. So if you are looking for any sort of gear, socks, duffel bags, fanny packs, sweatshirts, t-shirts, go check them out. If you already need some of that stuff, it's a great place to get it. And just know that the money that you're spending there is coming back into our sport instead of going elsewhere. So they're a fantastic nonprofit organization. Please go check them out, kiltedpatriot.com. You can also find them on Instagram at Kilted Patriot. We've tagged them in a bunch of things. We have an episode with Buck Buchanan, who is on their chair, that you can go check out earlier this year. So please go support the people that are taking their time and their money to support us and the things that we love, and really trying to make the athlete experience better, which is always something that we at Going Rogue have always very much believed in. So please, please, please go check them out, spend a little time, give what you can, and just know that it's coming back into something that is really cool. Speaking of games and athlete experiences, registration is open right now for the Woodridge Farm Celtic Festival. It's also where we host the Blue Ridge Championship. So if you're trying to qualify for the championship, be sure that you are getting out there and throwing and getting those scores up. Or if you're going to come join us in any of the open AM divisions, masters divisions, lightweights, adaptives, go on to Heavy Athlete right now. Check it out. You can also find the links to all of that in our link tree that's available on our Instagram. Enjoy the episode. If you guys have any questions, leave them as comments in the podcast. Also go follow us on YouTube, Instagram. Feel free to ask them there. We're expecting to have a lot more YouTube content coming up this year. And we're very excited about that. So without further ado, our episode today is Danny Webster and a host of other people, and it is the team behind the new NASGA Scores website. So you've probably seen the teasers getting shared online. I've been shown a little bit of the capability of what this website can do, and I think it's got a lot of potential to be really cool, but I don't know a lot about it. Outside of that, I'm very much an outsider on this one. So I have a lot of questions from the athletic director side as well as the athlete side that I'm hoping to share with you guys and give these guys a platform to kind of talk in longer form about what they're trying to accomplish, what they want this website to do, and how we think it's going to make the games better moving forward. Because I think anything that we get in this space that's progressing us is fantastic. So I'm very much looking forward to it. So thanks, guys. All right, guys. We are live. So, of course, I'll be an incredible professional and have a whole little intro thing that I put in front of this. But this is the main body of the new NASGAscores.com. And if anyone's thinking that we had a plan for this, they are wrong. This was just an idea where I said, hey, Danny, do y'all want to come on to have a platform to talk about this new thing? Danny said, yeah, let me try and wrangle a bunch of cats. And this is what we've come up with. So let's go around. So anyone that doesn't know, Danny Webster's here. Danny is the main AD for all the Backyard Rebellion Highland game, as well as works on the staff of a couple others here and there throughout the Southeast. And then I'll let the Joshes and Francises, because they haven't been on before, kind of just go in whatever order, fight over it, introduce yourselves and why people should care. Let's get Josh Hamill, go first.
Yeah, sure. So I've been throwing in the games for like 4 years. I'm just a thrower, masters thrower. But in terms of my contribution to NASGA, I'm a lot more accomplished professionally there than I am in the games of in the Highland Games. But I've been working for 7 years now as a principal UX designer for GoPro, the camera company. Before that, I spent a lot of time working with AAA video game companies, all kinds of stuff, branding, coding work, a lot of design though in general. And hoping I can lend that. And so far, it's been working really well, lending those skills to NASGA Scores.
Fantastic. All right. Let's not go two Joshes in a row. Francis.
Yeah, my name's Francis. Thrown about the same, 4-5 years now. Middle of the pack A thrower. I can transition to masters whenever I feel like it now. Based out of San Diego. Based out of San Diego. I got 2 lovely kids and a wife. That's Riker, Van, and Sarah. As for my role here, I have been a senior software engineer and architect in the fintech space. I've been all over the place, but the last 14, 15 years I've been into it, work on TurboTax, QuickBooks, Credit Karma, whatever we've got, I've been involved in some way. Yeah, that's what I bring here.
Okay. Second, Josh, what do we got?
So I found the sport 13 years ago, although I stopped throwing 6 years ago because I took my focus onto. I travel the country now helping plan games, judging, whether it be just backyard games all the way up to world championship games. And
Fantastic.
for NASGA, I kind of taken the lead on kind of a project manager to make sure we get the right people in place, find new people if needed, remove roadblocks if there are any. It's kind of my role with getting the refresh going.
Awesome. So that was one thing I kept hearing that, and I think that is kind of, from what I've seen, a big goal of y'all's, right, is a refresh and a reimagining, if you will, of NASGA, right? Like, is it fair to say that that's kind of been the goal?
Yes.
Okay. What, if any, deep thought process was there of, hey, let's bring back this? Is that simply a good branding move because people already know the term? Is that just a portion of it, or what is the thought process there? Because you are technically creating something new, right? Like the NASGA website still exists and is there, and NASGA
Yes,
Scores is a separate body, right?
yes. NASDA Web is still its own entity, and when I was coming up with the idea of doing this last year, I wanted something that paid homage to the old NASGA system that we all know and we all have used over the years. And I went and bought NASGA Scores because I was database driven, and that was where the name and everything came to. And the rest of these guys do all the work after that.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
so
original code for NASGA is 25 years old now. So even though we are focusing on a refresh, it almost needs to be a rebuild because of the outdated technology it's based on, and we're using much more modern methodologies that'll help maintain for the next 25 years for us.
yeah, which
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, go ahead.
that's actually part of what really compelled me to get involved when I started talking to Josh and Danny about this. Was as far as I could tell, again, I haven't been in the sport that long, but what I lack in time in the sport, I probably make up for with enthusiasm, right? Like I live it all year long. And I could tell that the part of the reason NASGA, the original NASGA, has been around as long as it has, which again, that's like the 90s, right? Like late 90s, I think, was when that was established. I think part of it is that it feels like a distributed sort of community ownership over this. Like I know one guy or maybe a group of guys, but it seems like there's one point of contact Danny had for old NASGA exists, but it very much feels like it's been this sort of community spirit driving it. And I loved that the story that Josh and Danny told me was one of like, we want NASGA to be distributed ownership in an org so that no one person is a point of failure. And we want to build it in the way that professional software and websites are built so that like we're focused on usability and we're focused on building something that can scale. That's not, something that's hosted, distributed using services that aren't in our garage or something, right? So that your uptime's constantly reliable. And I know these guys can speak to it more as the developer side, even than I can in terms of all that.
But yeah, my origin story here is very similar. Being an engineer, like I've done scoring for games, and like even just the first few times, I want to pull myself up and see my scores, and I'm on my phone trying to use NASGA, and I'm like, damn, man, like there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
And as the new projects kind of came up, I always kind of tossed myself at it and said, hey, I'd love to help out. This is what I do for a living. And scalability is an important thing that Joshua mentioned. I mean, I'm used to building applications that literally millions of people during tax season are just hammering on. And so, sometimes you go to NASGA and it's down because, more than 15 people are trying to pull scores at the moment. And, it's an excellent resource. And like you said, the name is it's big, right? Like everyone knows to go to NASGA and check their scores. So I think it all really made sense for us to kind of come together and kick ass on this.
There you go. Nice. So you guys keep using the word scaling. And so like, let's pretend that two people in the room are cops and we don't, yeah. So
I'm going to hide a couple of things.
Yeah.
Say that, if that's okay.
You're not in my county, brother. I don't care. So like, what does that mean in terms of the Highland games? I mean, if you're trying to make this new, and first of all, correct me if I'm wrong, database, website, I can use those terms interchangeably, right? Like it's going to be the goal.
Yes.
You know what? Actually, pause on the scalability. the goal of the website, is this to try and accomplish some of the same goals that websites like Heavy Athlete tried to, where like sign up, scoring, all of that, like kind of a one-stop shop mentality, or are you guys tackling one specific thing?
I think one thing we're probably not trying to tackle at the moment, and correct me if I'm wrong, is signups.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know,
Yeah, we're
like
not
I
gonna-
just set this up for the SAAA here in California. Like we want to own registration, but as far as like a centralized place where it's really easy to get an aggregate of my scores, compare myself against my peers, who's going to Worlds this year, and all that kind of thing, I think that's really where we're focusing our energy.
Okay,
Yes,
cool.
I don't want to get in the business of collecting other people's money. If you want to, once they get up and running, if people register their game or put their game on the site and they can put a link to their own registration page, that'd be great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and
All right,
that's actually backed up by. So I mentioned before that like my expertise is in UX design, which most people just roll their eyes. It means user experience design in software.
Okay, thank you.
So it encompasses like design, like visual design, behavioral psychology, and how people interact with things, and a little bit of background in programming knowledge. But a huge part of it is understanding users, right? Like that's the biggest role, is advocating for and building personas for who the users are that are going to be using the thing. Because I come in with my own biases. You, Jeremy, I'm sure you'd come in with your own biases. Everyone in this room would. Everyone in the
I
world
get
would.
bias-based training. Danny knows that.
There you
I
go.
never have any
Sure.
sort of bias.
And so you got to check your biases against other people. And so part of the bit that I insisted on when we came in, and I think it's been really important, and it is important for any like website design or software design, is testing, right? Like you get out and you talk to users. And this is a great example of, we had these assumptions about what we wanted to do and what we didn't want to do as far as registration. Do we want to take registration? Do we want to take money? And actually a huge sample that we took, well, it's a smaller sample of, but broad, right? Across the country with different ADs. The majority didn't want a website that had registration built in. A lot of ADs gave us the feedback that they have their platforms they like to use. They're usually running on a kind of a shoestring budget, and they're looking for the thing that's the cheapest for them to use and the simplest, because they've got a ton of tasks anyway to run games. And so I think what we're building reflects, this is a good example of building something that reflects what users are telling us in our community they want.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's just like my site. All of my games are registered on backyardrebellion.com. I've already got my registration page set up. I don't need someone else's. And I love other ADs, whether they use Iron Podium or whether they use. Some of them have to use the festival because the festivals do the registration themselves, and they don't want to release any type of registration to another site because they want to control the money. So you just run into so many problems that it's just really not worth it. And plus, we don't want to get into the idea that we're trying to take athletes' money from this.
Okay. Yeah, because I from my limited ADing experience, I love being able to run my registration off the same place I put in scores because I don't have to duplicate work. Lord knows there's enough of that elsewhere. But it's interesting to see that a lot of people want to.
Yep, it's the auto cast feeder.
Sure. I assumed your son was just shooting something on full auto somewhere.
Could
in
also
the
be
house.
that.
Yeah, there's a chance he'd strung up a puppet by its neck or something.
You've seen these things, okay? Yeah,
Sarah's stories are very telling, and they're going to make really good when the Netflix documentary comes out. And we all try and say there were no signs.
He's very well adjusted and loving, I promise.
So, but no, that's interesting. So, all right, so now we can kind of back up to my scaling thing. Now that I have kind of a better picture of what you guys are trying to build here and what its purposes are. So, what does scaling mean? Does that mean, in my brain, that seems like, hey, we're going to release this, and it's going to either be able to grow with the base that's using it or grow in terms of features, or does that mean both?
Well, kind of both.
Okay.
Francis, you can talk about like the actual scaling on how we understand it in IT, because I'm also an IT professional, 21 years in the industry myself. But Francis, why don't you take that question?
I mean, when I personally think in terms of scaling, it's usually about servicing transactions. So someone comes to the site and you duplicate that person times 10,000. They all get the same experience every time, whether they're on the field, whether there's 1 million people on the site. And there's a large bag of tricks we have as engineers to make sure that always works the way we expect it to. As far as the Highland games, the scaling is really not too much of a concern. I mean, there's like all 200,000 of us, maybe.
That's a very steep estimate there, brother.
Using the site all at once. But really, the challenge is scaling access to the data The database is quite large in the background. There is a lot of information.
Yeah.
And allowing the web app to access that information in a way that's snappy and fast isn't sitting there looking at a loading screen or it's timing out. That's really kind of the primary scaling issue that I'm concerning myself with. So getting the data clean and making sure that any user, no matter how many there are, access the site and can get what they need to get wherever they're at is kind of the goal right now.
Okay.
And then feature set, I mean, as an engineer, I don't think I've ever completed any project ever. There's always more features that you can dream up at the 90% stage.
Yeah.
So we have like a few phases we've talked about. We've got an MVP, and then more things will continue to roll on out after that. But I don't think that there's any shortage of feature scaling in this space for us, at least for now.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
That kind of leads me to another thing that I wanted to tackle too. So like I'm assuming that the base function of this website is free to use, kind of like the old NASGA is, kind of like Heavy Athlete is, that you can go on there, make a profile and see things and do base level stuff. Is there going to be, I mean, Francis used the word MVP for some things. Like, will there be options for people to pay for additional functionalities? Or I'm also asking because you guys are putting in a shitload of work. Like, I'm assuming
This is
for
a
peanuts at the moment.
Love of the game, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a passion project for all of us. That is,
Okay.
we didn't start that way, but then we started finding people that were like, "Hey, I want to help."
Yeah.
So
And many hands
that's
makes light work. So
yeah. So it's on the MVP thing, that's a term we're using for basically minimal functionality to go live, which is that
Okay.
recreation, the update of the old NASGA. That's our focus. But I just rearranged our future idea list, and we are over 24 different pieces of functionality that we have ideas for. When they come out, that will come later, because we've set our goals to, we want to go live. We got to get this minimal functionality out.
And I would defer to Josh on this, but I think Josh H. I think that the M probably parity with the current NASGA site, capturing at least the functionality that it currently provides.
Yeah, it plus decades of usage. I mean, it proved it does the job we need. So yeah, that we based our MVPs, our go live functions on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's not to say it's a significantly improved experience over
Yes.
anything that exists out there right now, I would say. Usability is a huge focus of mine. That's like my entire focus in this project, and it's entirely what I do professionally. And that's another thing, like in our initial interviews that we spent a lot of time focused on, was talking with ADs who, athletes, it seems like athletes will kind of figure it out for the most part with whatever's out there if they need to go and compare scores or find their own. And
they have to, right?
Yeah, right. But ADs are really where the work's at, and that's the backbone of the whole thing. Like, someone has to enter the scores for the rest of this to work. And so that's been a huge focus, is talking to ADs about what their pain points are, what their needs are, like things they would like to see in the future. And we did some really cool exercises where, we just laid it out, like, if you could have a magic wand, like, what would you like to see? And how about you rank them? I'd give them a budget and say, you get 5 stars. You've got 11 items here you talked about. Apply the stars. Like, where are you going to put them?
Mhm.
And that helps too to establish things like the MVP, like we talked about, like what's the minimum viable product we can put out there and get started. And then I think I'll wrap this up in just a second, but I think one thing I know Francis and Josh have probably observed this too professionally. It's usually a good idea to iterate, not only because you can get something out there faster, but you can put it out and learn in real time from your users. Like, you can try to anticipate a feature and how it will meet a user's needs. But if you just put it out there, people are going to tell you, especially in this community, right? Like, we aren't quiet. I mean, just log on anywhere and you're going to see opinions. So I think that's another benefit to sort of metering out features, right? Is you don't push in one direction too far before you get that feedback to tell you, like, maybe reel it in and go this direction.
Okay. So hearing you guys talk a lot about functionality and being better than NASGA, and then we've also got websites out there like Scottish Scores and Heavy Athlete. What is it about NASGA scores that's going to end up different? Or how is it going to accomplish something differently than what's already out there? I mean,
I have a quick opinion on that. Is when I saw Joshua was on the project, I was really attracted to it because the reason, yeah, it's definitely there. The reason your 5-year-old can use an iPad and like get a lot of stuff done is because Apple has really talented, well-paid UX designers. and that can really kill or enable an application.
Mhm.
And so knowing that someone is handling UX from a very professional position is really important, so that the users have like an intuitive interface to work with. So it's not jarring. It doesn't look like like I don't know about the other engineers out there, but a lot of UI that engineers put together come out kind of looking like an Excel spreadsheet. It's very logical. It's very barren. It's very Spartan. Joshua's been doing excellent work, and I think that's definitely one of the jumping off points for me, at least.
I love you too.
No.
Yeah, honestly,
He's a wizard.
Mr. Hamill's going to be the big reason why this site will probably do really well from the get-go, just because of like Francis said, people can use it right from the get-go, and we're probably going to, thanks to Mr. Hamill, we're probably going to have more time involved in designing the look, the feel. How do people use this site compared to any other site out there?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Because to use like Heavy Athlete as an example, it always drove me nuts that when I'm trying to use something, I have to click a little I and then read 2 paragraphs about how to go and accomplish the thing I want to do. And as much as I love Mike and he's my boy, I would try and tell him, yes, you put the information out there, it's technically accessible. But God bless it, brother. When I'm putting in this stuff, I am tired. I'm so exhausted. I know it makes sense to your brain, and it's really cool being smart enough for that to happen. But some of us are idiots.
It's hard, man. It's not easy. I think really, I think the example actually that Francis gave is a great one. Good design is invisible, right? You don't even realize it's there. And people will misattribute it to like my kid is such a genius because they can use the iPad. But again, like your kid might be a genius, but it's because the iPad was designed with millions and millions of dollars in design and research behind it. And that's obviously, we don't have millions to invest in this, but it does tend to make or break, I think, an experience. And you don't have to explain good design most of the time. Like if it's done in a way that implies hierarchy and implies the functionality and understands how humans interact with things.
Yeah, and it flows kind of in a somewhat natural way of what you're expecting, you know?
Right. Yeah. And just I can't stop talking here without kicking it back to Francis too. I really have had a great time working with him so far. He's like, most of the time I have to build out like specs, like design specs, and like notate everything. And he's already 2 steps ahead of me. And he's like, I already got into the document and I already built it like the next day. I'm like, it's crazy. I've never worked with anyone who's as fast or as competent. So now we're even.
That's something good to say about this team we've been able to put together, even though, we are kind of the principals here. And like I said, me as a 21-year veteran in IT, 8 of them in development, I thought I knew a thing or two. And I got to give props to Francis too. Wow, pretty damn good. And we've got some other guys that are that quality. Like I think we have in and out about 12 people, but we also have like other people that are going to help with specifically testing, subject matter experts, like the gentleman who made Cabermetrics, which was a fantastic site for data. He's helping us out with opinion, and he's like a subject matter expert for us.
Brian's awesome.
It's great. Yeah, Brian's great. Wish he had time to help us program because he could absolutely help us out. He's just a busy man. So we're putting people just to get feedback, not just like with Mr. Hamill's doing with user testing and making sure that the people can actually use it, but experts in the field and people have been in the sport 10, 15, 20 years giving us feedback.
Nice. So that was going to be one of my things. We talked about how you guys surveyed ADs and what they're looking for as far as inputting scores and the functionality of finding them. But of course, my thing is always, we're a lot of athletes taken into consideration. So it's nice to hear that that's going to be a big part of that testing process.
Yeah, it was in the beginning. The sample I took intentionally. So I would refer to it as qualitative testing in our first round, which just means instead of quantitative, like quantity, huge samples where you can get really shallow data. That's like forms and surveys and that sort of thing. There's value in that depending on what you're trying to solve, like what questions you're trying to answer. But to get started, we wanted qualitative or quality driven, narrower group going deeper, right? I can sit for an hour with 11 people and dig in and really get to the bottom of things, but I can't do that with 150, right? Not the way we're doing it. So we talked to ADs from large games, from small games, all the way across the country. And then the same with athletes. Like I talked to athletes too, and specifically probed on questions related to the athlete experience and what they're looking for, what's available right now on the market. like, well, it's not the market, I guess, but online, like what they have access to and what their likes and dislikes are there, their pain points, what they'd like to see. Yeah. And we talked to men and women, athletes, all the way from amateur, like B level to masters to I talked to a pro. Yeah, I mean, it's already a pretty good sample, but then we're about to get started on usability testing because that first round was just foundational research, right? It's just interviews, me chatting with people, getting a sense of what they want. But now we've got some prototypes built so I can go and actually put users through a task list and say, now I want you to use this. I'm going to observe how they're doing it. What would you expect to happen here? Did it meet your expectations? That sort of thing. And that's going to tell us if we're on the right track. Yeah. So that's honestly my favorite part. That's why I got into UX to begin with, is I think lab work is awesome. At this point, I've got like thousands of hours in that, and it's so much fun. Like I've had quite a bit of time at GoPro. We used to, when we used to be on site, it would be like behind two-way glass. You cops don't know anything about this, right? And just like behavioral observation with one guy in the room and a person there with like a phone or something, like multiple cameras studying their face. It's great. It's a lot of fun. But you can learn obviously a tremendous amount from that sort of thing if you know what you're looking for.
No, that's a lot of fun. Hearing you talk about how much you love data and that's why you got into your job, I'm just wondering what your favorite dinosaur or type of train is.
1, 2, 3, Velociraptor. Did we just become best friends?
Yeah. That's just you and Francis this whole episode. Just
yeah, it is. It was the first time we started talking. I was like, okay, I like this guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Is Sarah gonna block him from your phone here soon, Francis? Is they getting a little too?
No, she's got the chair in the corner from the beginning.
Right. That's room, Josh. All right. So you're talking about all these different rounds and testing and stuff before you go live. Do you guys have like a timeline kind of fleshed out as far as when you'd like to actually go live with all of this? Like, is there a goal in mind?
Kind of have a goal, but right now it's more of we want to make sure we have those MVP functionality pieces in place and working properly. That's truly going to be the go live. Being a passion project, we're taking a little bit of our time and being less force driven from like we're not working for a big corporation with like you got to have a timeline. It has to be here due date. We have a goal.
Yeah,
but
TBS reports on my desk.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, and we're all IT professionals in the day, so we have a day job. So this is something we do on the nights and weekends.
Okay.
So it's hard to specifically say it's going to be this timeline.
People anything, no inkling. That's fine. I'll respect it.
It's hard to say. Like it's a labor of love. So like even if we were to pick a date, it's like Joshua was in AAA games before. If you get to 30 days before release and you're like, this is not polished enough, we're pushing this out another 30 days. That way the first impression is really important. So we want to make sure that there's no stumbling. Like it works. It's got parity with NASGA. Does all the things. No one's seen error screens. And since it's a labor of love, like Josh said, we're working on this on nights and weekends, and sometimes in the morning before work, like whenever we can get time. So the date's going to probably wiggle around, but there'll be times when we get a lot done and then we're kind of busy, it takes a little less. And then, there's ebbs and flows to it.
That's fair. Then I guess my other way of asking that same question is, I know 100% isn't 100%, but if 100% was going live, do you guys have a feeling for how far along you are in that process? Like how much of the work you think has been done? Without yet doing the test, and that may make this an unfair question. I don't know. But how much of the background stuff do you feel like you've accomplished? So
it's an interesting question.
You can also say, I don't know. I don't know is a fair answer.
See, the percentage, like giving it a percentage, because like, being a developer for as long as I have, I'll do 80% of the work and 20% of the time. And then that last, what I call the last mile, it seems like it takes forever. Like like my boss always asks me that, Josh, how come you're 95% done for the last 2 weeks, but you got to 95% in 2 weeks? I'm like, yeah, that's the way it happens. It's always those little things you don't see that you aren't aware of. So you can't plan for that really.
It's an NBA basketball game. The 58 minutes goes by quick. The last 2 minutes lasts another 30 minutes.
Yep.
Which is fair, which is, kind of why I went with percentage, because you very well could have 75% of the background work done, and that final 25 could take equally as long as that front 75 did,
Well,
you know?
Yep.
I'll be as bold as saying it'll come out this year.
Okay.
Mhm.
Hey,
Hopefully in the
honestly, if
first
you had
half.
said hopefully before the end of 26, I'd take that as an answer, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the first half of the year, and that's about as accurate as I'm going to be for now.
It's fine. I was not trying to box you into a
Yeah.
specific date or week or anything. I'm just from the athlete side. I'm curious, and I don't have a filter. So if it pops into my head, I'm gonna ask.
I gotcha. Now I know there's like invites for championships that are going to go out starting in a few months. That'd be great if we got that out for people
Yeah.
to be able to run reports, and that's going to be a nice thing that we're going to have versus other
Mhm.
sites is the ability to you want to know exactly who to invite. Okay, here's your filters, and then you can share those filters with everybody. That's going to be something new, and it's going to be done by the end users, not hard coded. So you have to rely on somebody else to get it done. So it'd be nice if it was out.
So
That's our
here's my
goal.
question as
Trying
far
to.
as that goes too, because I use Heavy for a similar functionality for Blue Ridge, right? I can do it because I have the fancy premium version of Heavy Athlete, but it is what it is. So my question is, there's inevitably going to be overlap, and it'll probably never go away. Some people are still going to use only Scottish scores because they like only Scottish scores, and some people are only going to use Heavy Athlete. Some people are only going to use some other bullshit that I don't know about.
Well,
And,
we have an
and I
answer to
know
that.
well, I haven't even asked the question yet.
I thought you were
know
okay.
what-
I've heard this before. Sorry.
I know
Buddy,
you
buddy,
know what it is.
These are
but let me-
people who have favorite
people
dinosaurs and
listening-
trains.
Yeah. There might be people listening who aren't giant fucking nerds, so I need to illustrate this to them.
What? No way. Please finish that.
So, will this website have the ability in perpetuity to continue pulling data from other websites? Is that a function or something that is going to continue happening so that people aren't duplicating their work?
Yeah, there's kind of a two steps to that. Like at first, we are going to be manually converting and scraping data, and not just U.S. based ones, Canadian, German, Swiss, Netherlands based ones, and any other ones we can find from Europe, because there are 40 plus countries over there, and each of them carry one or two websites in their own country for their own regional games. So we're going to try to gather all that data. So right from the get-go, we will be the most complete database of games in the history of the sport.
Okay.
And then we will
cool.
continue moving forward. There will be a select few sites that are used more commonly. And they basically we're going to set a threshold to say, hey, if this many games are put in there a year, okay, we want to continue, like Cabermetrics did, scrape every day. So people can
Okay.
still use those other sites, and they're going to be massively limited on the data they have when there's another site that already has, in 24 hours, we got your data, and it already has data from everywhere else too.
I'd add to that and say that in addition to any kind of front end scraping that we're doing, we would seek to set up partnerships with other websites, setting up APIs with background communication channels, rather, so that when their sites are updated, ours is updated as well, and that's done like as an agreement. Like we're choosing, because scraping's like I'm coming and I'm taking, but the API is more like Heavy Athlete, for instance. If they wanted to share their data with us, then we have an uplink, and as people post things on their site, it also shows on our website. Who wants to do that? I don't know, but I think some of the smaller sites out there that have less reach and want to give back to the community in a meaningful way and can identify that NASGA is being heavily used will probably choose to do something like that with us.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not here to run anybody out of business or do anything. It's just we want to create something for the community that brings everybody in.
Nice.
Which, speaking on that, is the reason why we're going to do open source this code eventually. Meaning anybody out there has access to the code. They can technically build their own site, or they can offer to help, and then it goes through a kind of a system to say, hey, is it tested properly, and it will be added to the NASGA score site. But that's how much we believe in this project and want it to grow as a community. This isn't proprietary code. After we go live, this will be made public for everybody to enjoy, use, interact with for the betterment of everybody.
Nice. So this is a conversation Danny and I kind of had off air, so I'll ask it to the group then, because like I think we've had both ends of that spectrum exist, right? So on NASGA old school, it was kind of the Wild West, and people could log in and do whatever they wanted. And heavy athlete was the other end of that spectrum where if you weren't the AD, there was only one other guy that could log in. And good luck getting him on the phone. Mike lives a very private life, right? So it sounds it and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you've kind of got a middle ground, right? Where this is an accessible website, but you do have some level of checks and balances, like if people are trying to do something, or in general, how is that going to be policed? Because me personally, I like the idea of more structure pushes the sport forward in a more serious way. You know, I think if you loosen things up too much and go fully back to the old NASGA style where anyone can change anything, I think it makes us look unserious. That's my 2 cents of it, you know?
We will be
Sure.
somewhere in the middle, and depending on which specific thing we're talking about editing, it may be really close to what NASG is, might be still really close to HA, but we're going to kind of do this wiggle part to get the right balance of things. And that's we probably have talked about that quite a bit. Probably one of our top topics is data consistency, quality of that data, to make sure it's makes us a valid sport, like a true 1,500-year-old sport.
I think
Are
that
we-
there's
Go ahead, Francis.
I think there's two parts of that. The open source nature of the project just means that other engineers can learn from our learnings and replicate some of our work if they choose to. This is common in software. You also know that we don't have any shenanigans going on under the hood or anything. But as far as like checks and balances for like who enters scores and who owns a game and things of that nature, I think we'll probably fairly similar to other websites, with options for ADs to add authorized people to update games and things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to mention. Was that exact topic, Jeremy, that you mentioned, was one of the things I probed on pretty specifically in the first round, to get a sense. And that was the same thing you said was the same feedback I got consistently from ADs, which was heavy athlete was creating, for a lot of ADs, was creating a bit of a choke point for entry of data, like where the only the AD themselves could enter data. And athletes reflected that as well. They said a lot of times they'd be waiting on scores, and there's a lot for ADs to do. I mean, you know this, and I haven't personally filled that role yet, but a lot of my good friends do in games across the country. And NASGA seemed like, I've actually entered scores for games on NASGA for ADs before, and it was sort of Wild West. It seemed like mostly it self-policed itself to a decent degree, but the balance we landed on so far, is it, Josh and Francis, do you think it's okay to speak to what we're planning on there?
Yes.
Oh, I guess Francis did.
Please do.
Yeah, Francis did already, but the actual experience for you as an AD would be when you set up a games, you're the first primary owner, and it's not open to anyone but you to enter scores. And in the process of creating the game, or you can come back and manage it, you can just search other profiles and add them as authorized. So if you had a scorekeeper, you could add them, just search them up in the database. And as long as they have a user account there at NASGA scores, they could be added. And then we've also debated having a toggle where if an AD wants to, it's like a backyards game. They don't really care. They just hit the toggle to allow anyone with a profile to do it. But that would default to off. So really there's multiple levels of control, and that reflects what we got as feedback from and suggestions from ADs when we did that first round.
Yeah, and another thing we talked about with like what Mr. Hamill said about anybody can upload a score. There's the idea that we may mark it as unverified to let people know, hey, this has been entered in and it needs to be verified still.
Yeah.
And plus, there would be a log, I believe, on who.
Yeah,
who
we're
did that
gonna have an
score.
audit log. Yes, absolutely.
Which that's what on the old NASGA, if your scores were changed, you could always go in and see who changed them, and that's how it was self-policed a lot, because there were confrontations.
Yeah, and I know there were. It just always it drove me nuts when, like, multiple times 3-4 weeks would go by, I'd hit somebody up, or I'm in a group and I say, hey, do we have scores yet? And somebody goes, just go enter them yourself. And my knee-jerk reaction was, I fucking paid you so that you would do it. What do you mean go do it myself? I paid my entry fee. I showed up. I thought this was part of the agreement. So from one hand, I liked it. I like it not being the Wild West for the legitimacy of the scores. But on the other hand, I liked it because it at least kept some of these ADs. Now I just don't go to their games. If I think you're a crap AD, I'm not showing
Well,
up.
on the old NASGA, a lot of times you had people logging in and doing scores because of you were a master 40 to 44, but you also qualified to be a lightweight, where you'd have to go in and enter your scores for rankings only, And
Yeah.
add that, I think these guys are working on a way to solve that problem also.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because my thing
yes, we
was
are.
like I'd be trying to get into like ECCs that year and the game wasn't in and I know things are about to go out and they're like, well, just go in and put them in. And I'm like, that feels shady as shit. Putting in my own scores to say I get to go to a championship. It always rubbed me wrong, but this is not the episode where Jeremy airs his grievances. That's the other however many episodes. This is, I need to lock in just a little bit here.
Look, I want a shirt just to hear that.
Yeah. And what does the back say? It says kill mediocrity, and the old NASGA was mediocre. I'll die on that hill. It's very sweet that you all incorporated the name. It was a beige colored piece of crap. Anyway.
In 1999, when it went live, it was great.
Brother, after you heard the dial-up noises and all that terribleness, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a great site to access with an AOL online disk.
I got my 1 hour of internet time. Let me go in here and try and get through my scores.
Hey, look, it was the original social media. I mean, go to the forums. I mean, that was social media gold.
Yeah. Zuckerberg's about to take that shit over now that you said that. This is all.
Probably.
Will this website
give us some
have
sponsorship money?
Yeah, whatever, man. Give me some weird meta glasses. I'll wear them while I throw. Everyone will get really dizzy. But do you guys have any desire to build in some of that other functionality like shops and message boards and all that stuff? Are you going to try and really hub a lot of things together on here at some point?
Like I said, we have a list of over 24 ideas. Whether they all get incorporated or not, time will tell. We might start trickling in some things, and that's where part of the open source will be, where other engineers can be like, hey, I can do that part and put it on a NASGA. And like, great, please do. And then we run it through our testing, and then if it works, we put it up to the site. Yeah, there's some things we talked about for sure. Yeah, we want, and other things are, well, maybe not.
Yeah.
We did just talk internally about the forum concept, and I'm definitely in favor of that. The sport specifically is so nuanced and niche that there's a lot of tribal knowledge, right?
Who says it niche? We got to back up to that for a split second.
How do you say it? Niche? Niche? Oh, okay. Niche.
I thought it was niche.
Anyway.
All right.
No, but a good point on my interruption aside.
There's a lot of tribal knowledge, right? So if you Google how do I take care of a caber, chances are you're going to fall onto the NASGA forums, and there's like one post from 2002 where someone's sharing, their home brew information. And Facebook is like cool and all, but actually I hate Facebook, and I don't want to read all the other stuff
it's
that's
the
around.
Worst too, and God forbid you're trying to look for a specific post, because that same post was shared to the NASGA page, the SHAG page, the SAAA page, because it's the only way the AD had to get information to a large bunch of people was to post it on 6 different pages. And now you have 6 different groups of comments that have all been left somewhere, and you can never refine something. It's horrendous.
So a forum is kind of like, a high yield return on very, very low investment. It's not a lot of effort and work to get it set up, and the community kind of self-governs and contributes what they want to.
Editor mods just going through there and policing and kicking people
I believe
out.
I believe it's going to be Danny Outtree, not officially, but we got a shout out. I think Danny watches this or listens in on this show sometimes. So Danny, and we heard you. You want to be the president of the forums.
He's got the right body fat percentage and facial hair makeup to be a Redditor mod. So I think that's that.
You did hear he listens to this, right?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I heard him, but he also
risky.
lives in Alaska, and it's going to take him 24 hours to get to me. So I'm
Fair
not
enough.
He's the only Alaska guy knows it from Alabama.
right. Well, cool. So we've talked a lot about timelines and how there's this long list of things y'all are going to try and do, and maybe by the end of the year, hopefully half of the year, yada yada. But 10, 15, 20 years down the road, is this website sustainable past all of us? Is this going to continue on like the original NASGA is somehow doing through some form of witchcraft? I don't understand.
That is
What's
the goal.
the sustainability of all of this?
I think it is, especially because we're going to be so transparent with how the site is run and architected. NASGA is kind of a black box, and the reason it's still running is because someone's credit card is on auto pay, honestly. But, it does go down and there are issues, and there's no one there to service it. With us being so revealing about how the site is built and how to maintain it, it should be pretty straightforward. And I think one of the goals that Danny had set out was that this was never going to be like a single point of failure, that will be transparent and open, and many hands will touch and govern this project as it moves forward.
Yeah, when I gave them this idea and or got everybody started on it, I wanted if something happened to me tomorrow, I want this to go on, and that's was my goal to begin with.
Well, good. That's good to hear that it's, been thought of, because I know that's a concern for several things. And then there's also always the unplanned stuff that happens, the wrong person, God forbid something happens to them, and now the entire sport loses something that's functional.
Yeah. It's another reason why it's great to have experienced developers working on a project like this, is that you'll find that people with experience doing it will write code that's easy for the next guy to pick up or to modify, like if this does go open source. Somebody who's with less experience is not going to write code as cleanly and as maintainable and like something you can actually someone could jump into that hadn't written it and be able to continue on, which it's just another feather in the cap for the people with experience doing it.
This is a process I'm used to. We go through code reviews for every feature we implement. So if you could imagine you're writing a chapter in a book, before it gets merged into the book, all your teammates have to read it and go, yeah, that's shit. I like that. That's good. Fix that. Why'd you do that? And so the way that I build has been off of 20 years of that sort of relationship. And very purposely, the architecture and the software of the site is done in a way that if you just leave the lights on, it'll just keep doing the damn thing. But it's also not like bespoke in any way. A lot of it is like the modern tools that are standard, industry standard for high scale software engineering. So anyone can step in and go, oh, I recognize this language. I see how this works. I can contribute to and update this as well.
And to a non-technical way to explain what Mr. Hamill mentioned about clean code, which is a term I like to use at my job and with my team, is one of the definitions I have of clean code is I should never look at the code and go, what does this mean? That's to me not clean code. Another thing I like to look at is with clean code is I don't have to rebuild the whole thing to make a change to it. I should, even if it's something I took a year to build, clean code to me is, oh, you want that functionality? Yeah, I'll have it up for you in 4 hours. That to me is clean code.
Not spaghetti code. It's very modular. It's
Yes.
an orchestration
Legos.
of Legos, right? And you can
Like
pull one out.
Legos. Oh, take this piece here, move it over here.
Yeah.
Done. That's clean code. So that's
Nice.
how
Yeah,
we're
'cause I
really
have
trying
seen-
to structure this.
I've seen other things, just knowing some people who do it, like they will change one functionality of something on a website, and all of a sudden this piece way over here now isn't working for some reason. And it's because you touched something that, to me as an end user, doesn't seem related at all. I have no idea why piece A touched piece E.
Sometimes
make
it is, but in theory, a good separation of concerns keeps that from occurring, and we're definitely operating with that.
As much as that's the goal, one of my favorite shirts I ever got when I became a developer was somebody got it for me. It's based on that 99 bottles of beer, and it's 99 bugs in the code. Take it down, patch it around, 137 bugs in the code. It happens. As much as we want to not let it happen, it happens. But yeah, our goal is that clean code, that Lego modularity kind of idea where it's easy to change.
Nice. I think that's run us through the majority of our original talking points, the things that we wanted to, and if you guys are looking at the chat and you see something that I'm missing here or I haven't addressed, by all means, do it. But if we've run through all that, is there anything that you guys are seeing as a common question that people are messaging you on a regular basis and you want to address it kind of to the masses? Is there one thing that came up a lot after the teaser got put out or any of that,
Well, even before the teaser, and I think one of the reasons why, like when me and Danny first started talking, and he was really the guy who started the whole thing last year, and I get it because we saw the same thing on just trying to put scores in for any site. If it goes down, it's not usable. So yeah, that's definitely something we're going to be trying to resolve as best as we can. Is this thing needs to be up all the time?
That's what she said.
Cool.
I,
Yeah, pretty much.
I enter scores for about 15 games a year. So data entry, I'm a data entry point for a lot of games. And my main goal, what I want is something simple that I can understand to do, because as you can listen to me talk, I am not a computer programmer, and So I want them to create something that everybody can use, and I want everybody to know that if I can use it, you can use it, because I am not a computer guy. So that's what I want out of it. And that's a lot of what I've heard feedback since the teaser video was some ADs, especially some older ADs. Hey, are we going to be able to get in this and use this? Is it going to crash on us? Are we going to have to click all these boxes to get the athletes? And well, our goal is to make this a simple user experience, kind of like NASGA was, just better.
Nice. And is that also, I think I know the answer to it, but again, I don't know if everyone else will. Is there going to be a lot of mobile functionality built into this? Because I mean, the vast majority of all traffic nowadays is off of mobile devices, not desk or laptop.
Yeah, so that's kind of the strength of modern web applications, right? It's supporting mobile views. So it's just like any other modern website where mobile first is kind of the concept. So all the things you can do on the desktop, you'll be able to do on the phone. I'd say just as easily as if you were sitting at a desk. Probably takes a special person to set up a game from their couch on their phone. But you could, if you want, and it won't be an arduous task.
Some people just may not have a laptop or any of that stuff. You know, they're running 1 to 2 backyard games a year, and all they've got is that iPhone 13.
Then this will definitely work for that situation.
Yeah, and we've spent a significant amount of design time thinking through that specifically on mobile. Like, I'm sure we can all imagine here and have used other services. Like, if you're looking at a data table with a class of athletes and their scores, there's 9 events wide on a data table, and then an athlete in a place. Like, that's not an easy thing to make work well on a portrait device, right? So we have some strategies to handle that are probably better to just show rather than tell when this starts getting into the hands of people. Yeah, we've spent a significant amount of time thinking through that and making sure the mobile experience is top notch too.
Nice. What are some of the like the bells and whistles or the more frou-frou stuff that athletes can expect out of this website? We've talked about linking out to things and stuff like that. So like my thought goes to, athlete bio pages, I think are a really cool feature that I liked. At least Heavy Athlete had that functionality where you could put your bio lines and stuff so that announcers, or maybe you were a new pro trying to get into the game, could, you've got a tagline for who you are. Are things like that still going to be accessible? Will there be ways to link out to people's social media and their own websites? Or are there things like that built in to this, or is that a goal at some point?
Yeah, we've got some of that in the bio. There's a lot of that same, like, you can't really do any new work without looking at the competitive landscape in an area and seeing what is working and what isn't. So we did that competitive analysis, obviously, and a lot of that base functionality, like adding a bio, that sort of thing, that seems like kind of table stakes at this point. I'll say too, like, I can name one thing that I think sort of answers your question about bells and whistles. I'm working right now on like an athlete dashboard. So you can think of it sort of like a homepage, but it's an amalgamation of, there's obviously looking at the games, right? I want to see specific games and the months and what's happening in that period of time. There's another primary location that's like the athlete database, results, all that stuff. But this third one as the dashboard, I see as a location that pulls snapshots that you might be interested in. Like, this is actually a great example of where UX can be pretty helpful. Like, if I have a dashboard and we know you're logged in, and we know, because you're logged in, what classes you throw in, or maybe the class you threw in last, why can't we tailor, and we should tailor your sort of dashboard homepage experience to give you a snapshot of like your class, top throwers in the one that you're in? Like, let's automatically pull that data in. Why not? We found out in interviews like this first round that not surprisingly, most athletes, if they get on and they're looking at the database, they're looking to see where they are and where their competition stands. Like, if I'm an A thrower, I want to know, like, it's fun to go look at the pros and see where they are to be aspirational, but the majority of the time is probably spent sort of scouting your own class, right? So we know that's a task you want, so let's just pull it out and do it for you. Here it is for you. You don't have to go search for it. Here it is on the dashboard. Or your lifetime PRs, like, there's no reason that's not front and center every time you log in. Just, it's an important piece of information, and doesn't take up a ton of space. Like, that sort of thing should be present for you. Upcoming games, like what's happening now in the games, like what's happening this month. Show me a snapshot of where they are, which ones are live today. Maybe there's live scoring in the future. That's something we've talked about, similar to Scottish scores. If that's happening, we should have all that information and be able to pull it forward in a way where, like we talked about before, like how long can this last? Is there no single point of failure? Little modules like that we're talking about, that's just specific logic, pulling specific data. We don't have to maintain that. Francis draws it up one time, like codes it up one time and tells it to pull this data or that data on the reg, and you're good to go. So that's the kind of thing I'm interested in terms of bells and whistles right now. But I know as we keep talking to people and get feedback, we'll get a ton more. Sorry, that was a lot of.
No. But that's what I wanted to know is, hey, what are all the little shiny bits that are, kind of 20th or 21st century, depending on what era of this sport we're looking at.
Yeah, to add on top of that, yes, dynamic data will definitely be a huge part, to the point that we don't need to recode every year, every few months, the same things. Like I mentioned earlier, with the rankings for championship invites, the biggest games that the sport has, Masters Worlds, where we could see 175 plus athletes competing over 20 classes. Manually doing that the way it was before, it was multiple people, weeks of work. And the ability to have that reporting in there means that one person from that organization that runs it can basically log into the site, and in a matter of 5 minutes they know who to invite for 20 classes. And they can generate the report themselves based on all the results. And then next year when they need to do it, same thing. There's no coding changes that need to be done. That same person just goes into that site. 5 minutes later, boom, we've got the rankings for 20 classes. There's your invites. Quick, easy, done. That is going to be, I think, a huge improvement over anything that's out there right now.
Good.
Well, I got another one.
Yeah, hit me.
We got, like I said, we got a ton. I don't want to give away all our secrets before people get to use them. But yeah, it's not a secret. Another a pain point that we got from ADs was, every year I pretty much have the same game, but I have to create a new one every year, like a new instance. So something Francis and I were working on was, if I go to enter a game, it's almost operates like a suggestive search field. So if I'm Jay and I enter in Enum Claw, as I start to enter that, it's going to suggest the other iteration that exists in the database. It'll say Enum Claw, there's 8 years of files here, or 8 years of records here. Clicking into it, it's going to prompt like, hey, do you want us to just autofill all your data from last year?
Yeah.
And so
if I can do that with my sandwich order from Jersey Mike's, there's no reason.
Exactly. So then you'd get your location information, all your external links to like your other websites and things, and all you got to do is enter in a new date and you're off to the races. Yeah. And I think we have a much better class builder for ADs, class and athlete builder, than anything I've seen. It's, again, one of those show probably rather than tell. It's going to be a mess for me to try to explain it, but I'm really excited to see that in the hands of ADs and get a sense in this next round of if we're solving problems for them.
Yeah. And to touch on something Danny said earlier that I think is, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, I can always clip it, but like the ease of looking from one to the other, like especially I'm the only non-master, I think, currently in this chat, if I'm hearing everyone correctly. But your 28 is always your 28, right? So there doesn't have to be any duplication of effort now if people are throwing things that would qualify them in another class while they're throwing in this other class. This new database should still accommodate for that overlap and do things the quote-unquote correct way.
We've had that discussion many a times on how to incorporate results from one games to a multitude of classes based on logic that we'll have predefined. And you're right, a 28 pounds, a 28 pounder. If you're throwing a 28, that should go everywhere that a 28 pounder can be used in a ranking. So yeah, that's being taken into consideration.
Yeah, there shouldn't be an instance where you have to choose what class you want that score to go in, or you have to go in and create another 4 rankings only data entry point.
Yeah, so right now the classes that are entered will be the results for the game, so awards can be handed out of the games, and so people can know at that game what class it was. But for the rankings, yeah, that'll cross-populate or cross-pollinate, whichever word would use.
I don't know how many of y'all have ever done a powerlifting meet, but it's really fun because you get to go in and enter. Yeah, you go enter classic and bench only and push-pull only and bench squat only, just to make sure that all of your stuff go.
Yep. Yeah, I used to run meets for 8 years. I was the state chair for one federation. Yeah, we had people that would sign up for 5 different little classes, but only do the 3 lifts. Yeah,
you're lifting 9 times. You didn't lift 15 times. This is
yeah. It's a lot of times it's for records, but absolutely. This will make that experience much easier.
Nice. All right. Anything else that athletes or ADs should expect whenever this thing goes live? Any other or misconceptions you guys want to clear up? Stuff you've heard? It's your time. I've got nothing but time.
I think that, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there's going to be some social media getting stood up at some point soon. Make it easy to kind of keep up with when we plan to release, when MVP, things like that will become available.
Okay.
Yes, on Twitter and Instagram currently, we have spun up a NASGA scores account, which will be starting to slowly announce, like, hey, we've hit a milestone, or hey, we're getting closer. Right now, it's just a sneak peek we have out there that Mr. Hamill wonderfully put together. But yeah, and then as features start to come out, we will start letting people know.
Yeah,
So
look at that. There is a NASGA scores X account. God, I look at that. I don't use X for
X,
hardly
a
anything.
little
yeah.
modern term. Okay, yeah, I still
Yeah.
call it Twitter.
Ooh. Well, because I forgot it existed until like a year ago, and I was like, I have one of those.
Well, we know some people are on Facebook, some people are on Instagram, some people are on Twitter. There is no one social media that everybody's on. And right now we're not on Facebook because there is a NASGA group, and I don't know how much we want to step on their toes or even start something up because there's, like Mr. Hamill mentioned earlier, last time I posted up a games when I ran it, I put it in like 20 different groups and I still didn't get it out to everybody.
Yeah. And that is the thing. You can post it to, like I said earlier, you post it to 6 different groups, and there's no continuity. There's no syncing up of everyone's comments and questions, and it will drive you absolutely insane. So
Yeah. That actually inspires me a little bit to mention one thing I would say about NASGA is, again, something that inspired me to get involved. And I think the spirit of this is important to make clear. It's so clearly about creating something for the community, making sure there's problems that we hear about. Like all of us, I mean, we're all good at bitching, like all of us. And
I'm great
ADs,
at it.
yeah, I'm
Fucking stellar.
but like, there's no shortage of problems to solve. And I think we have a team here that's assembled and has the experience to do that and to give back. And everyone's expressed that in this group, which I think is really cool as a motivator. It's like, we all just really want to create something that outlasts all of us and solves these problems in the community that we keep seeing. Like I would love to be able to help create something that helps an AD who again is the backbone of this whole sport in terms of the way it works right now, these ADs that run this. I would love to make something that makes their job even marginally easier so that they can continue doing it. They can actually enjoy what they're doing afterwards and entering scores. And I don't know, I think that's important. I don't know the motivations of any other software that's out there. I'm sure it's pretty similar, but it's definitely inspired me in a huge way here. And I don't think, I mean, if you like using Heavy Athlete, if you like using Scottish scores, I think something that's interesting, I think NASGA scores will be a better place personally. Like I'm a little biased, right? I think it'll be a better place to do it. But like the guys mentioned, the fact that we'll be creating APIs or scraping to pull all that data in, NASGA will be the most comprehensive place. So if you want to enter into Heavy Athlete, you could, and your scores would show up still in NASGA, which I think is huge. I have to go to multiple different ones. Like half my best scores are in Heavy Athlete and half of them are in Scottish scores. And it's a bummer because I'm one of those athletes that wants to go on and see where I stack up in competition. I can't ever, like, it's never really a full picture. So I think I'm excited for that reason. Just it's a product I want to use or a website I want to use.
Yeah, same. I have some of the same issues. I can't even find scores from last year for some of my games. They just don't exist anymore.
And
Look,
that's
I know
one
where
thing
your
when it comes
Woodridge
to
scores went. I don't know about anything else, brother. I don't.
and on that data, yes, we keep talking about how we're trying to get the data into our database. Being that open source, we want to make our data available to everybody else too. If somebody wants to work with us and tap into it, like Cabermetrics really wasn't a scoring site, it was a metrics website. And so they scraped. If somebody wants to do something like that, we will absolutely work with them to make sure they have the data they need from us on an easy, simple, on-call, on-demand kind of thing. So it's that kind of going along that whole community-driven thing.
Nice.
I think having that group where I bet 10 of us can go away and this site still finishes.
Yeah. Then my final note here, and we've lost Danny apparently, but it's all right. He'll upload a monologue of him rambling in selfie mode to his Instagram, and everything will be just fine. But it is a primary goal, and if it is one of this new website, to grow and legitimize the sport, and if so, is it via all the things we've already talked about, or is there another grander, more arching way that that's going to get done, if that's a goal? Or are you guys just staying in the lane of database? Or does it skin the cat? Does that make sense? Have I worded myself confusingly enough?
Yes, it's clear as mud.
Good.
I think there's some organic legitimacy being brought just by virtue of Joshua's UX. If it, just the prototypes, if you come and interact with them, you can already tell that it's just a cut above. The experience really is there, and a good facade can bring legitimacy to a lot of
Well,
things.
if you look professional, people think you're professional.
Right, and
I've always told Josh McIntosh that was one of the best things he ever did, was he looked professional from jump with No Fame games.
Yeah, amazing.
Right. No Fame has great marketing, right? Like high quality footage. It's edited very well. So far, this project is in very much the same vein. It looks very pretty. It works very well. It's very thoughtful. Things that you might have to do manually, like Joshua was saying, are just part and parcel to the experience on the site. And I think these sorts of things help legitimize. In fact, I think one of the experiments we were looking at was like the ESPN website. And honestly, it looks like shit in comparison to a lot of the work Joshua's already done. So I think the legitimacy is kind of organically baked into the level of effort we're putting into the product so far.
Good.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I just think, I love this sport so much. Like I said, I haven't been doing it that long, 4 years or so. But again, the enthusiasm, I think I try to make up for that. And we deserve better. And I don't mean that to disparage anything that's there. I think the community deserves, like you talked about No Fame, right? You see a No Fame video and you're like, Jesus, I'm so proud to be a part of this sport when I see the way that's portrayed. And I think I just want to create, that's the skill set I have and the skill set I know these guys have, that, and I don't want to speak for them, but I want to be a part of creating something that people can be proud of in the sport that doesn't feel like, NASGA again lasted so long, and part of that, I think, is a testament to the way it was built, which is great. And the community puts up with a lot, I think, just because there's not a lot of options. But I think we deserve better as a community, and I want to help provide that, right? Like, we can do better. And I think that legitimizes things to some degree. I don't know what legitimize, I think that's kind of loaded as a term. Like, what does that mean exactly to different people? It seems like I've listened to your show a lot, and I've listened to Langworthy's show. And I think what legitimize means is different depending on who you talk to.
Oh, and it can be, yeah.
Yeah. But I think definitely it will, the quality of the build, the functionality, the way it operates, and the ease of use is going to make it feel legit.
I see this site as not the thing that helps to grow the sport, but a tool for groups that want to help grow the sport. This is a tool in the toolbox. We're giving that masterful tool that everybody needs and everybody can use, just like all of us guys probably have our cordless drills in our toolbox and everything else we have that are just critical for what we do. This is going to be that critical tool in the toolbox that other organizations can use to help make sure this sport continues and grows.
Yeah, being competitive is definitely one of the reasons that I keep throwing, and having somewhere to view my scores and my peers is really important. I was really sad when Capermetrics stopped doing its thing because it worked so well, right?
Yeah.
And I've been wanting for a long time to somehow contribute my skills. Software is really expensive to have put together. And so if I can provide that back to the community, that's giving me so much, me and my family, my wife is really involved, my kids are at the games. It's mutually beneficial in many ways for that reason.
And just for ADs, the way these guys are building this site and the way it looks, it'd be nice when you're going to a potential sponsor and say, hey, go to this website and this is what we're doing, this is what it looks like, and that sponsor look and go, oh, wow. It helps you secure that deal as raising money for your games.
No,
I had never considered that. That
was one of the reasons I built a website for Going Rogue, because in our first year when we were going to venues and I was showing them stuff, they said, okay, cool, what's your website look like? And I went, oh, fuck, I don't have one of those. And showing them NASGA was not any help.
Yeah.
So, that's half the reason I have a website. Is it that useful to athletes? No, it's more of a business card that costs me a couple $100 every year because it adds an air of legitimacy. So if you're going to give people an option, and that was something that Mike and I had talked about heavy athlete potentially being like ways to dress up your AD page to look that way. But it helps because some guys are only going to run 1 or 2 games and they're not going to invest the money into building their own website. But if they can use the sports website to show it off a little bit, then that could be helpful.
Yeah, totally.
Well, cool. Guys, that's everything I've got, and we've run north of an hour, which, feels like a good spot. Anything else before I hit this stop button that anybody's got? Anything you want to plug? I know, Danny, you've got games coming up.
Yeah, backyardrebellion.com. All of my games are there. They will soon be on NASGAscores.com. But right now, backyardrebellion.com, and go to my calendar. I've got other ADs and games in the Southeast. So go there, register, and hope to see you there.
Cool. Anybody else got anything for the good of the order, as it will?
Nope.
All right.
See you on the field.
I'm going to hit this stop button. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.